Hey folks, welcome back to the channel, your home for all content Marvel Mystic Mayhem. Today's video is about the ending of the time reversal event and some advice or some strategies I think you should try and employ before the event ends to get your roster into a good shape before we can't reset the heroes anymore. So this is primarily focused on people who started playing at global launch because uh, when you downloaded and when you started the game basically determines when your time reversal event started. So the earliest the time reversal event ends is going to be people who started on global launch. So for me, I have 22 hours left on this particular event. You get about a month, which I think is really nice. But I want to show you some in-game mail they sent. It's this one here. So I got this a few days ago. The time reversal event will end on, this is for me, to tomorrow. After the event ends, you'll no longer be able to reset hero development and highlights, so please pay attention. That to me means that you likely will not be able to reset heroes or highlights even for gems or gold. And so I'm going to kind of operate based on that particular information. And so what I want to do is kind of go over some general heuristics and guides and how I think you should be shaping up your roster for current content and maybe some good strategies for future content, and just being able to kind of cover all of your bases with the roster. And so I also want to point out that I made a tier list video last night that I think can maybe help in some of this decision making. So I'll link that card somewhere over here and you can go check that out. Also, you can vote on, you can basically make your own tier list using my template and sort of put things where you want, and then we'll get a community-wide sort of consensus on where people should be ranked. Okay, but for this particular video, I think if you are on the free-to-play side, and I'm going to gear a lot of my advice towards people who are free-to-play or maybe very light spenders here, I think 4 to 6 characters is good. 4 is probably getting pretty close to minimum there, but I think 6 characters is a pretty good mix. You want a mix of special target, physical target, special damage, physical damage, single target, and AoE, maybe a tank, maybe a controller, something like that. So I think 6 is a decent enough sort of number of characters to aim for, and it's not too wide of a roster, but it covers a lot of your bases here. Kind of the gut feeling that I have is that you should be building your roster towards making sure you do well in Nightfall. That seems to be the current sort of end game content here, with the release of the new Asgardian theme coming in like a week. Yep, less than a week now. There's going to be a new Nightfall boss there, and we don't know what that's going to entail, but you do know what is good for the current Nightfall bosses, right? For Dragon Armor, you want some more AoE focused heroes. For Evil Eye, I would say you want a little bit of AoE, but you also want some pretty heavy single target damage so you can make sure that you get the Evil Eye down as quick as possible once the hands come down, right? So I think you should sort of build your roster with that mostly in mind, and then obviously the ability to clear some of the story missions, right? Some people in my community, Eerie and Raiden, they did some sort of back of the envelope type math here. And as it turns out, if you are completely free to play, you're not spending any gems on refreshes. Okay, but you are level 70, so free to play, no energy refreshes, but you are level 70. You can get a character from scratch to max. That includes level, highlight, and talents in about 5-ish days. So it's kind of like a little week-long project you can have for maxing out a particular character. And so with that information in mind, I think it's kind of safer to be on the side of reset stuff now and then see if you need it later, right? So if you've got some things that are leveled up a little bit and you want to keep that progress, I guess my suggestion is reset that now, see if that character becomes vital and useful for future content, or it ends up being that you really need it for, current Nightfall content, then you can bring them up. And it doesn't take too long to kind of bring somebody up in your roster as a completely free to play character person. Okay. I will also say, and this is kind of ended up being true on the tier list, that generally natural 3 stars are just going to be better than natural 2 stars. That's not surprising to anybody. That's how they rank them. There are, of course, exceptions to that, but that's, I think, a pretty good heuristic. And again, this video, I want to kind of focus on giving more advice to free-to-play players who might not have, you know, any 3 stars, any natural 3 stars, except the ones that you were given for free, Moon Girl and Storm. Okay, let's go into looking. I always click the wrong button here. Let's look at fighters and strikers here. Let's look at some damage. Speaking of Storm, I think if you don't have Iron Man, if you don't have Thor, I think she is a terrific AoE hero to build up. I think she kind of covers the AoE base on that particular front. Everybody has her for free. So even if you're free to play, right, I think she's worth investing in to cover your AoE bases. In terms of other sort of AoE heroes, Human Torch is actually not a bad option if you want to bring him up. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about this later when we get into defenders, but the Fantastic Four event sort of did this nice thing where you got Human Torch and Thing for free, right? And as a result, it kind of patched this free-to-play hole, I would say, in people's rosters. And so having 2 AoE heroes with a Human Torch and Storm, I think is totally fine. Obviously, if you have Iron Man or Thor, those should probably be your priority in terms of AoE. Other characters that are AoE, I'll talk about Misty Knight in a second here. She's kind of AoE, she's kind of not, but I think those are some decent free-to-play options. In terms of single target damage, I love Echo. Echo is one of my favorite characters to play. I think she's relatively accessible. If you have her, she's worth bringing up. I would say the same about Psylocke as well. If you have her, she's worth bringing up. Now, everybody gets Misty Knight and Lady Bullseye for free. And this is going to be maybe a hot take here, but I think if you have to choose between Misty Knight and Lady Bullseye because you need another sort of single target DPS focused character, I think you should choose Misty Knight. I explained this in my tier list video. I don't like Lady Bullseye because her skills end up spending so much time on your mana bar, on your skill bar. I just feel like she's clogging it up. Misty Knight actually scales pretty decently well, and there's another reason. When you complete all of those mementos and you max them out, you are getting 2 dupes of Misty Knight. And so it's a really easy way to build up a character and get more Soul Saga shards for her from a free-to-play perspective. So in that particular case, if you need, you know, another sort of single target damage hero, I think Misty Knight over Lady Bullseye for me. Obviously, if you have Scarlet Witch, you should be leveling up Scarlet Witch. Okay, that takes care of some of the damage. Let's talk about defenders. It seems to me, in my mind, that there are sort of 2 classes of defenders that they have here. There are the really, really tanky ones that are kind of meant to draw a lot of fire to them. An example of that would be sort of Captain America, although he's in a class of his own. So maybe a better example of that is Thing, Armor, and Angela. And then there are sort of characters that are tanks, but they do a lot of damage. And they kind of skew more towards the damage side of things. And I'm thinking more like, you know, Juggernaut is obviously falls into that. And I think Sentry does too. That's not to say that some of these characters can't do damage, the tankier ones, because Thing and Armor definitely do. But I feel like, I don't know how to explain it better than these feel like they're more damage focused than defense focused. And these feel like they're more defense focused than damage focused with their skills. That being said, if you are free to play, obviously if you've Captain America or Juggernaut, I think they're really good options and you should be leveling them up. But if you are free to play, some of the characters you got for free would be Thing and Armor. And I think those are actually both really good options here. Armor is terrific and Thing is also terrific. Thing has a few stuns. Armor has a few stuns. They both have taunts. They have ways to just sort of make themselves tankier. I love the Thing's ultimate. When you pair him with 2 other Fantastic Four, he rolls back and forth 4 times, and he hits really hard if you stack him with defense. Armor is just got great damage output, so I don't think you can go wrong here. If you are maybe thinking about also leveling Human Torch, then maybe it's just natural that you want to put Thing on there. But I think these are both really good options. I don't like Hulk that much. I know some people really like him. I don't like him that much, and I don't like Angela too much. So the decision you're gonna have to make about defenders, though, is, do I need somebody who can really like soak up damage, because I'm struggling, with the nightmare level of dragon armor, or I'm just struggling to get through some of these final story missions here? Then maybe you should go with the tankier version. And then if not, maybe Sentry is a good option for you there. But I kind of think you should just level the Thing. Okay, let's talk about controllers here. This is the case where I don't think if you have a 3-star, you should automatically level it up. Between Moon Girl and Dream Queen, everybody got Moon Girl for free. If you happen to pull Dream Queen as a free-to-play, I think you have to go Dream Queen. So by the time I made my tier list video last night, and Dream Queen had been nerfed. They took away the 3 mana that she was giving on her ultimate. It was not in the text, but they basically corrected what was not there. As of this morning, they have changed course on that, and she now will be giving 3 mana with her ultimate. That means she is one of the better mana batteries in this game. And so I think she is definitely worth leveling up if you have her. She's probably the best natural 2-star controller, hands down. It's not even a contest. And I think she's better than some of the other controllers. I would level her up over, well, I will be leveling her up over Moon Girl and over Spider-Man, because I think that mana control and regeneration is just that good. By the way, I think the reason they sort of caved on that is because they had the Invisible Woman nerf, really to make sure that Bifrost Brawl was not unplayable. But then it doesn't feel good to also get a nerf for another character. I guess you could argue that it's not really a nerf. It's just bringing it in line with what they had in the text, which is sure, fine. I'm glad to see that they added this mana to her ultimate, though, because, again, if you manage to pull her as free to play, because you don't get her, I don't think, any other way besides pulling, she's a really good option to bring up. Other than that, it's really hard to say. I think you should just hold out for Dream Queen or a natural 3-star. I'm not sure any of these other 2-stars here are really worth it. Sleepwalker was good sort of as you were coming up and through the mid game, but I think he falls off pretty hard in his usability into the end game. So I hope you just get lucky and get Dream Queen and or one of these natural 3-stars, and that's sort of how I feel about it. Okay. I do want to go back and talk about the F4 event a little bit here. Okay. So like I mentioned earlier, I really think it's nice that they gave Thing and Human Torch for free. And I think that they really do kind of fill 2 holes in people's rosters. So not a controller hole, but needing another sort of accessible AoE hero, and also kind of having a tank that does a decent amount of damage. The Thing, I guess armor is free to play as well, but I think it's just another great option. And so if you decide that you're going to go Human Torch, I'm going to recommend again that maybe you go Thing over armor, just because there's some synergy there. And so then if you do end up putting them in a team together, they automatically have that extra synergy and they work really well together. Okay. So that is going to wrap up this video. Again, it looks like you may not be able to reset characters at all after time reversal event ends. So make sure that you get this sorted out before the event ends and don't accidentally leave one of your characters leveled up that you didn't want to leave leveled up. That being said, if you're unsure about something, reset some of your characters now to make sure that you can max out one of them, and then just try a few things. Go try. I will go into Nightfall with a character and try them out there. And I will also then go into Battle Bonanza, because I think these are really great tests for single target characters and AoE heroes. I think they're both good at testing that. So go just try it out a few stages. And then again, my last piece of advice is you can start slimmer before the time reversal event ends, right? So get your roster down to maybe a slimmer size if you're worried about it, and then you can bring characters up afterwards uh, when you realize that maybe you do need them. But that's it for me. Thanks for watching. Take it easy.